Okay, so let's have a quick look at the readiness document for Alpha 1. As you can see, lots of no's on this screen, lots of red, depressingly so. So basically I've split this. Column A is modules of the game. The B is like whether I've got like a concept sketch drawing for that. C is whether it's been programmed. D is documented. E is I've uploaded a video to YouTube about that module, and F has been like tested by me and other playtesters before the Alpha 1 release, right? And then I've got up here, this is my readiness traffic light. You can see 25% of concept, but I've got no finished programmed stuff. So the shipyard store, I need to update this. I've not updated this in a while, so that I've not done any concept work with. Combat I've not really done much with, although I did do the kind of the missile concept work, like how under the hood all the calculations are going to work, and how projectiles are going to navigate their way between different things. So that's useful. So the planets I do now have a concept for. And the way I'm doing that is I've got two cameras in the scene. One of them is a background camera and one is a foreground camera. The foreground camera does all of the stuff in the grid cells, and then the background camera does all of the planets. And the idea is that the planets are at like 1/1000th scale or something like that, you know, 10,000th, 20,000th scale. And that camera moves around the planets and the background world at 1/20,000th of the speed. So the motion of that is scaled as well, so that as the main camera is zipping around the world filming stuff, the background camera moves slowly, so you get very slow parallax on the background. So that kind of works. Anchorage services, yep, I've got a concept for that. Anchorages are basically going to be the kind of the first version of stations, and they're basically like a docking, are basically something floating in space that you can dock to, and from there you get access to the menus to buy and sell ships and items, and do that sort of thing, reload ammo, reload fuel, repair your ship, that sort of thing. And they're going to be like the first in like kind of starting thing for like stations and player-owned stations. So that right. Drones. Drones are basically going to be deployable ships, like little mini ships that you can deploy from your own ship. And there's going to be an attack drone, a mining drone, and a repair drone. I now, I guess, have concepts for all of these. I drew those out last night. So drones dock into a drone bay cube or block. That can store 2 drones, I think, is how I'm going to do it to start with. And basically what happens is when you launch a drone, they kind of pop out the top of the block and fly off and then start orbiting your ship. And then when you give the drone, if you set your target, attack drones will go and attack them. If you launch mining drones, their default behaviour is to go to the nearest asteroid, grab a chunk of the asteroid and come back and put it in your cargo hold. So they're basically going to like ferry backwards and forwards, getting resources for the player. And the repair drone will basically just orbit around the ship, and if there's a damaged block, it will dock onto that block, do a repair animation, and then go back into orbit around the ship. So the idea is that then, as the repair drones are going around, they'll come in and like kind of repair a block and then fly out and then sort of be going around repairing blocks. And they're going to do that in a most damaged block first kind of priority. So repair drones are basically like if you're expecting to get into combat, stick a couple of repair drones or a repair drone on your ship. The way this is going to work to start with is there's just going to be a repair drone bay block, a attack drone bay block, and a mining bay block. I think in kind of the future versions we'll have something where you can actually, similar to the turrets, you can equip drones into a standard drone bay block. And the turrets you can equip weapons into a standard turret block, which allows you to do a lot more customization. But that's a bit too I tried to like pull back a lot of the complicated parts, or a lot of the detail, to just get something basic for an alpha. Okay, I don't want to say I've got solid concepts for the buying and selling stuff and the inventory stuff. I kind of know roughly how it's going to work, and I've got like rough code sketches. But I've not got that. The neutral AI is done. So the three AIs that I want to implement for the alpha are Wanderer, which is basically a neutral AI, or a hostile AI that doesn't have a target yet, and they'll basically navigate around the world, just randomly going between places. And the way that's going to work is they'll pick a grid cell, maybe like within 5 grid cells of its current position, and then it will move off to that grid cell, passing through all the grid cells in the process. I did play around. I've got a little demo somewhere of my first attempt at a docking AI, and the idea was that you'd have like trade ships that would go backwards and forwards between stations, which would have a similar idea. This Wanderer AI you'd also apply to ships, like player-owned ships that are not controlled directly by the player, but they're AI controlled. So friendly AIs, if you have like an exploration ship, that will go around randomly exploring grid cells and adding, alerting you to any like useful resources in those cells. But that's a future thing. The Strafer AI is kind of like the classic kind of dogfighting type one. So the idea is it flies in behind, or it flies into the target, fires its weapons, breaks away and flies off, and then comes back round again and fires. So it will kind of go in, fire all its weapons, fly off. And that's going to be used for like smaller enemy ships and drones. And then the hostile AI gunship is basically, it will orbit its target and fire its guns at the target. And that's more of like a capital ship, battleship, cruiser type fighting style, where it basically what you'll end up with is friendly ships and hostile ships orbiting each other, firing weapons at each other, and putting up flak screens between each other to basically shield themselves from enemy fire. So that's going to be like the main like ship of the line, big space battles behaviour. Strafer is more for the fighters. I could probably add in some AI behaviours for orbiting around targets. These are probably going to be made up of smaller sub-behaviours, like Wanderer is going to have a wander around mode, and it's also going to have like a switching to attack mode, switching to dock mode, and that sort of thing if it needs to. So for combat side of things, I've done like little bits of work, but I've not got solid concepts on these yet. But as you can see, I've now doubled the amount of readiness on my excuse me, it's really cold in here, on my concept side of things. What I want to be able to do is these two I'm going to get done, which is the navigation program and the camera program. We're about 75-80% done on the camera programming. There's the chase mode camera to go, and I've got a rough and ready version of that, which I borrowed out of another code library, but I'm not really happy with how that works, and what I want to do is re-implement that using the same polar coordinate system that I've got with the orbit camera. The navigation module I showed quickly in the last video, and we're going to do a video now on that where I'm fleshing it out a little bit more, is basically going to use the Bezier curves to move ships around the world. And that's basically the kind of the underlying tool that all of the AI behaviours use to make stuff happen. So everything's going to have a navigation module, even to the point where probably projectiles are going to have a cut down version of that, because they're going to be slightly less complicated as far as the way they work. Or they might just use the navigation module. I mean, it's still the same thing. I think having a big state machine running for the projectiles is probably not required. Yeah, and the shipyard store. The idea is when the player's docked at an anchorage, there'll be an option to buy upgraded ships initially in the first alpha. These will be pre-made ships, and they'll just vary in price. And the idea is as the user trades, buys and sells, gets bounties for killing pirates, that sort of thing, they'll earn money, and then they can spend that money in the shipyard. There's going to be like basic classes of ships, so there'll be like a standard starter ship, which will, will be free basically. Then there'll then be like kind of smaller ships, probably an industrial ship for going out and mining resources. There'll probably be a drone carrier and a couple of like kind of cruisers and battleship type things that are more geared towards combat. So yeah, that's going to basically just be a pretty simple UI. You'll have a picture of the ship, and you click on it and you buy it, and it will then swap to that ship. And if you already own it, if you click on the ship, you can then it will reload your current ship to that ship. At a later date, that's going to be much more complicated, and there's going to be a shipbuilder module, but that's going to be pretty much all of Alpha 2 is going to be the shipbuilding side of things, and the station building and that sort of. So that will be more like player creation of ships and stations. For the time being, it's just going to be just to test the combat and the AIs and the trading system and stuff. It's going to be pretty simple. Okay. Right, so that's the kind of the readiness document for Alpha 1. Obviously a lot of work to go. All of the concept work, or a lot of the concept work, is pretty much done. Okay, over half of the concept work is done. Now I've got actual numbers to say whether it's done or not. It's I can't say, yeah, I've almost done it all. Programming is coming along. We're going to tick off hopefully the camera and the navigation stuff in the next few days, or at least this week. Then we're going to hit probably the AIs next. I've got a fair amount of AI concept and programming stuff done, but I've not finished any of it, so that's probably a way to go. The main big unknown on here is the asteroids. That's probably the biggest bit of programming that I've not done before. Everything else is stuff that I've done in the past. This is new. And basically, this is going to be the asteroids are made out of like voxel, cubic voxels, and then they're meshed with like a deformable mesh over the top. And then what happens is that as players mine asteroids, they'll pull chunks off, and those blocks will disappear, and the mesh will deform. So that's kind of my plan for getting cool-looking asteroids sorted out. But there's a couple of things I'm uncertain on that. It's probably going to be a marching squares algorithm or a marching cubes algorithm. There's a naive surface nets algorithm, which will probably be pretty good for this. And I've even looked at doing, like, could I implement something like a NURBS to get nice smooth looking asteroids from voxel grids? I'm not sure the best way of doing that. So there's loads of like kind of, it's a bit up in the air about how I'm going to do that, and I need to sit down, and I know what I want to do, but I need to actually put in some detail. I should probably not have concept as yes for that, because I'm still a bit fuzzy on the concept. Okay, alright, thanks for watching. This is like basically an update on the status of Alpha 1. I'll try to do these every now and then as I get stuff done and tick stuff off. As you can see at the moment, that traffic light is looking very red. But I think we can, once I get the navigation stuff done, all of the AI behaviours, are fairly standard, simple things to do, so I should start ticking those off pretty quick. The combat side of things, I'll probably try and do all of that in one go. I've got a fairly good concept, but not a finished concept for that. Right, okay, thanks for listening. I'm going to stop rambling on now. Rock on, see you in the next video.